Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about the IBM Watson Personality Insights service, and I'm going to be giving you a quick overview of some of its capabilities and uses. So in this section, we're going to learn about what the Watson Personality Insights service is and what it does, specifically what it can tell you about a person, including the big 5 personality traits, the needs and the values of a person. And we're also going to look at the response for consumption preferences. Basically, this will tell you what a person prefers to consume, specifically things around like what products they would enjoy. And we're also going to look at some of the use cases of the service, just to give you an idea of how this can be used in the real world. So Watson Personality Insights. So Personality Insights allows you to gain some insight about a user based around written correspondence. So pretty much anything from social media, anything from an email or a letter, or any other communication. This service will take that text and do some linguistic analysis on it to gain an insight on the personality. And so once it does this analysis on the text, the service is going to return a few things. It's going to return the big 5 personality traits, the needs, the values, and the consumption preference if you have that option enabled. And so we're going to go into detail about what each one of these responses means later on. As I mentioned, the service also returns a consumption preference of the user, and this is going to be useful for targeted advertisements or basically just seeing what the person is into. So if they're into live music, if they're into hip-hop, if they're into country, things like that, you're going to be able to see that based on the personality, if they're more outgoing or more agreeable, just little things like that. So the big 5 personality traits. So the big 5 personality traits is a model that is widely used for describing a person's personality based on 5 descriptors. These descriptors include agreeableness, which is a person's tendency to be compassionate and cooperative towards others; conscientiousness, which is a person's tendency to act in an organized way; extroversion, which is a person's tendency to seek stimulation in the company of others; neuroticism, or emotional range, which is the extent to which a person's emotions are sensitive to the person's environment; and openness, which is the extent to which a person is open to experiencing new activities. And so the service will return a score for each one of these descriptors based on the text that was passed in. And from those 5 descriptors, you'll get an idea of what the person's personality is like. So the next thing returned are the values of the user. And so the values model describes the motivating factors that influence a person's decision making. And so some of these values include self-transcendence, or helping others. And this is basically whether you show concern for the welfare and interests of others; conservation and tradition, which shows if a person emphasizes self-restriction, order, and resistance to change. Then there's hedonism and taking pleasure in life, and this is if a person seeks pleasure and sensuous gratitude for themselves. Next is self-enhancement, or achieving success, and this is how much a person seeks personal success for themselves. And then lastly is open to change, or excitement, how much a person emphasizes independent action, thought, and feeling, as well as readiness for a new experience. So again, these values will give you an idea of what the person's personality is like, but this is just based on how they would make decisions, basically what's their driving factors in the choices they make. Another response you get from the service are the person's needs, and this needs model describes at a high level what aspect of a product are likely to resonate with a person. So there are actually 12 needs that are described in this model, and this includes excitement, harmony, curiosity, ideal, closeness, self-expression, liberty, love, practicality, stability, challenge, and structure. And so these needs are again going to give you a different aspect of the personality, but more around what they're looking for when they make a decision to buy something, or what they're looking for in products specifically. And so next, I just want to look at some of the use cases on how this can be used. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a way to understand your customer. So you could build a system that analyzes a customer's speech to gain insight on what kind of person they are. Pretty much the main use for in this use case would be the ability to send targeted advertisements. So you'd be able to send an advertisement that's more tailored to the person's personality. So if they're more, say if they're more conservative and more resistant to change, you could send an advertisement that kind of fits those beliefs, and they'd be more accepting to that kind of advertisement. The next use case that I'd like to bring up is the ability to find a compatible personality, and there's two specific applications that I'm going to talk about on this use case, and the first one is going to be for a sales app. So, for example, if you wanted to sell, you could find a person whose personality is more compatible with the customer you're trying to reach out to. So you can find a salesman that's very similar in personality-wise to whoever you're trying to sell to. Might have a better chance of making a sale if the people's personalities really hit it off. Another possibility for finding compatible personalities, it would be just for hiring as well. So if you have a very specific company culture, if everybody's very outgoing, maybe it's in their best interest to hire somebody that's just as outgoing as everybody else in the company. Maybe if you're hiring people into a very outgoing, very a sales-oriented position, maybe it's better to have somebody that's very extroverted. And lastly, the service allows you to find consumption preference, as I mentioned before. Again, this would be good for some market analysis, just to see what people are likely to buy. Maybe you're looking at a specific, for example, in our application, we're going to be looking at the guests of hotels, and we're going to be able to see what their consumption preferences are like based on the reviews. And then we could as well just do targeted advertisements for that location. And so next, I just want to show you a quick demo of this service, just so you can see how it works and what it returns. Alright, so this is the demo for the Personality Insights service, and we're going to just go ahead and try it out just to see what it returns. So for this demo, we're just going to pick a source of text. So in this case, we can choose a Twitter feed. And so I'm just going to select Oprah, and then we're going to hit Analyze. And so this is going to pull some of her recent tweets and then put it through the service. Alright, so this gives you a few things here. And so the summary is put together based on some of the traits that are returned. And let's look at those traits first. So here on the right side are the consumption preferences. So you can see that the person is they're more likely to be influenced by family when making product purchases. They like Latin music. And they consider starting a business in the next few years. And so it tells you what they're not likely to do. So in this case, Oprah is unlikely to prefer using credit cards for shopping. She's unlikely to like documentary movies or attend live musical events. And then here at the bottom, you see these specific personality traits. So on the left side, we have the big 5 personality traits, including the agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness, extroversion, and emotional range. And you can see the values given. Next is the consumer needs. And then you can expand that to see even more. And then lastly, we have the values. And so that's what the service gives you. You can go ahead and check out the demo, try it out with your own body of text, or even your own Twitter, and see what it returns. And so with that said, let's move on to the lab.